As you have been creating projects so far, you are all creating the simple Java projects. Okay. And I've also shown you that we can add the external dependencies by downloading the jar files and adding them to the project libraries. Yeah. And also I showed you that we can export the projects in external jar files as jar files so that we can share our project with other folks. So all these things you are actually doing them yourself. Okay, like you are doing them manually. However, there are actually build tools that can automate these things once you do some proper configuration and all. So Maven is one such tool. With some small amount of configuration, some things can be automated. And also, I showed you that we can also write some unit tests using at test annotation, right? And Srinivas, you asked me a question about whether they have to be run manually or something like that. Okay, so we will
Buddha, are
see.
you showing for anything or not at present?
I'm not showing anything yet.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so as I was telling, um, the one of the question that you have asked me is like whether the uh, like whether the tests have to be run manually or something like that. Yeah. So the build tools actually help us achieve that with a small set of configuration. Okay, Maven is one such build tool. Okay. So today I'll show you not the deep thing, but basics for you to get started on using Maven rather than actually understand what the build tools are and etc. So Maven actually is a very big tool. Okay? Though it on the face of it it appears like a very small thing, but it does a lot of things, and it can be extended as well to do some other extra things also. What is the build process? So when you understand what is the build process, then you will understand what Maven is actually. Build process is performing various tasks on the project. Okay, the task of coding is one thing, but then again, task of distributing, making sure that all the required dependent jars are there for the project and all is all another work that is to be done separately, and all this work, and also how do we execute the program. Do we create it as a var, or do we create it as a web application or something like that, a web application archive or something like that. Okay? So all this can be controlled using Maven, and even documentation, like also multiple people will be able to manage the dependencies properly, and etc etc. So the Maven is actually a helper kind of thing. Okay, it simplifies many things. And a configuration, it has a file called all the Maven configuration has to be explained through an XML called as pom.xml. Okay, and so for example, do we want all the unit tests to be run? Do we want all the code to be exported into a jar, or do we want something else to be done? So all these things can be controlled through the pom.xml. As I said, I'm not going to explain all the functionalities of the Maven and pom.xml, only the basics, so that you know small concepts of what Maven is, and you can actually use it also in your projects. Okay. So, can you see my screen?
Yeah, yes, Buddha.
Okay.
Uh, Buddha, one question here.
Yeah.
So apart from Maven,
Mhm.
what are the widely used tools?
Initially, there used to be Ant, and which is kind of outdated now, but still some old projects that have begun long back is there. And recently, there is also Gradle. Okay, so that is also another widely used build tool.
What is the first one you said?
And
And okay,
ANT and schema. So that
okay,
that also works based on an XML file, uh, 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 and also the form.xml is also an XML file. So either of them you will be able to control through an XML file. Okay, and Eclipse has a very extensive support for Maven, and all many other IDEs also have very good support for Maven or all these build tools. So we will be getting a lot of intelligence and everything.
What about Serena, Buddha?
No, I've never heard about Serena.
Okay, fine.
you said Gradle, right? Currently in our project,
Okay.
Gradle, not only project in our client side,
Mm-hmm.
they are replacing the existing versions with Gradle.
Okay.
So earlier they used to use RAD. Now they changed to open source uh, tool STS, Spring Tool Suite.
RAD is RAD is nothing but an IDE like Eclipse.
Right, right.
Okay, and um, so that's very small thing. So that RAD is from IBM, so it's licensed and they have to pay. Whereas Spring Tool Suite is just an extension over Eclipse, slightly different flavor of that. So
Okay.
it's not a big, a big
And
difference. Yeah,
this Gradle and GitHub, do you know GitHub?
yeah.
So what is the exact difference between these two? So both are version control and build creation.
No, Gradle is not for version control.
Okay,
Gradle is for building. Okay, how I've showed you that we will be able to create a jar file manually, right?
right.
Okay, how we can export and all. But every time if you have to make a build file every time, it becomes a very difficult thing, or cumbersome or long tedious task. Okay? For especially these are all very small projects. Imagine that you have very big project where you have hundreds of test cases to run first and then do the build and all. If the test cases are passed, uh, all this to make sure that we do manually is a very long process. So these build tools actually help us automate that kind of maintenance management tasks, not the actual coding tasks. Okay. Whereas GitHub is different. Git is a version controlling system where we can check in the code so that multiple other people can also check in the code. And whenever we want to go back to the previous versions, we can go back to the previous versions of the code. If you want, I can take a small introduction as to what Git is and all. But it's mainly used for version controlling, okay? Making sure that multiple people can work simultaneously on a single. So far, you both are working on a separate projects. Okay, imagine you have to write some code, and Kishore has to write some code of the same project. Okay, and doing that is like one person may override the changes of others, and also version controlling helps us do that efficiently. Okay, we can make sure we merge the changes so that both changes won't be lost and all. Okay, so that's about Git. GitHub is actually a central location where all these changes will be saved. Okay, so it's like
Okay,
a server that actually stores all the code changes and all the differences that like all the versions and all versions of all the codes and all. Okay.
okay. And one more question, Buddha.
Yeah.
Uh, let's suppose we have many number of classes
Hmm.
in our project,
Hmm.
and if we change one of them,
Hmm.
so creating the jar file, uh, so will it take a huge time, or normally in DB2 and all in COBOL, what happens if uh, it's related to database. Basically, if any program is changed, then if it calls multiple programs, then only the program which got changed needs to be compiled. So the build creation time is very small. So how it happens in Java?
Uh, See, here what happens is projects will be very big, okay, huge. Sometimes some projects will take 1 hour to 1.5 hour to completely build.
Okay,
Okay, imagine a project where thousands of people are working. Okay, so all that code has to be compiled, and any errors have to be reported, and all the tests that are there, and test cases can be in thousands. Okay, so far we are only seeing ones and twos. Okay, so all these things, creation of jar is only very small, minute example that I've shown. Okay. Imagine
okay,
there are many large enterprise-wide projects that will be very tedious to do manually. Okay, there are creation of jar or war are not the only things that happen during the Maven build process. Okay. Imagine you will have to delete all the files in certain folder, and also you have to make sure that you have some new files created in certain location for your application to run. All that process can also be taken care of. Okay, it's not only just creation of jar. Okay, you can also run the application. You can also create fulfill some prerequisites, lots of things. Okay,
okay,
so creation of jar is a very small thing, which can also take time if the projects have hundreds of developers. Okay, which they may be producing like thousands of classes, and the project can get pretty big. Okay, for example, now if you see, this is one project that I work on. It has 85,463 files. Okay, now imagine how big projects can get. So it all depends on uh, many things. Okay, it depends on how complex the project is, and doing this thing manually is very small thing. Okay, generally we don't end at creating a jar file. That's not the ultimate goal of building. There are many other things. Okay, we may have to create installer setup.exe that you can directly double click and install. Okay, all those things can also be handled by using these build tools. Okay, a lot of things. Okay, a lot of manual steps will can be automated. Okay, so any other questions?
one more question, Buddha.
Yeah.
Normally, what happens is in our application, the front end uh, Java team
Mm-hmm.
will call our onlines,
Okay.
uh, and then if the layout changes
Mm-hmm.
for the onlines,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which they need to call the mainframe,
Okay.
then they usually take one whole day
Okay.
uh, to create the stars or maybe to change
Yeah.
the setup and all.
Mm-hmm.
So is it really required, or is it something which is project dependent?
Can you say it again?
Okay, so what happens is they will call mainframes with a specific layout.
Okay.
Uh, you can say it's a file with a layout, and then they will build a file, and then they
Mm-hmm.
will call mainframes.
Okay.
Sometimes when the layout of the file changes,
Uh-huh.
let's suppose in middle of the project, it happened quite a few times that the file layout changed, and the front end teams they almost need one day
Yeah.
buffer time
Mm-hmm.
to build everything and to get ready for the testing.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to ask is, is the setup and creation of jars or build creations and everything requires that much time to reflect those, or is it project dependent?
Uh, it is project dependent. As I showed you one example that my project contains 84,000 source files. Okay.
Correct.
and making sure everything compiles, and making sure that there are no errors, and also there can be some other tasks. Say for example, you have thousands of files, wherein you have to ensure that every file has a copyright symbol or a copyright comment of your company at the beginning. Okay,
Okay.
how do you automate that task? There can be many such standardizing things. Okay, your company may also have some code conventions verifications, whether you are following certain code conventions or not. So all these things can also be automated. So they may be doing all those things, and then they may be compiling. Compiling, yes, large projects they do take some hours of effort, and in fact there are build managers that only does this kind of tasks. Okay, generation of builds and all those kind of build process tasks and all, there will be separate people who does that, not our regular developers do that.
Okay.
So, anyways, we are not going to learn all the things that I've explained that can be done using Maven. I'll give you basic. So, when you need something, you can search and how to do that through Maven, and you will be able to figure out all the things that are required for doing certain things. Okay, and
Okay.
we will do a small part of making sure how we can actually create a jar file automatically and also execute some test cases. So I showed you a ampersand test, right, to execute JUnit tests. I'm sorry, did I show you or not?
No, Buddha, no.
At test. Okay, I remember showing.
Buddha, at test, no need of main class, right?
Yes, yes, that's the one.
Yeah, and you also showed at the rate of ignore.
Yes, yes, yes. I have showed them both. So we can have multiple methods that actually that can be executed, which are primarily used as test cases, automated test cases. That I'll just show you one small example so that you'll get an idea. So far we are actually using this main, right? And
Yeah.
so there are other ways also. So for example, we want to run this, we will be simply running this. And now let's say calculations test. See, imagine we have been writing some functionality of an application called as unscramble. Okay. So when we do that, what we generally do is we will be doing also first we'll also be writing some unit tests that will be testing our code automatically. Okay, so far we have been testing them manually whether it is working fine or not. Okay, whatever examples I gave you, that they are just being carried out by they are just being executed manually, and the output is being verified, right? So instead of that, output of them will be is being verified manually. Instead, what we can do is we can write methods that can be executed that will actually test the functionality. Okay, let's say there are two variables, int a equals to 5, b equals to 10. We want to check whether these two are adding these two is producing 15 or not. One way that you will be testing is a plus b is double equals to 15, and sys out pass, else sys out fail. So you may imagine that this is one way of testing this, okay? But the problem is printing in console is not that attentive, not that good at all. So you will have to go through thousands of lines to be able to decide whether a test case has passed or failed. There may be thousand test cases also. So what happens is doing like this will be kind of difficult. Okay, the same thing if we are using JNet, we have something called as assert, and also we have to add the JNet libraries. Yesterday we have seen how to add the library of the Apache Commons line. Okay, now we can also add JUnit for. We have to find out what all jars are there in JUnit, and we have to add that. Actually, our Eclipse and all the IDs that we are using, they recognize JUnit very well, so they will give us option directly to add JUnit for library to build path that we can simply choose that will be added. So now if you see in the referenced library section, we have JUnit and we have two jars that have been added automatically by our project. And what is this error? Sometimes we get error like this, okay, exclamation, not the X symbol. X indicates there is some error in the compilation, compiling the code, but this particular exclamation errors are much more serious. Okay, they indicate very serious problem that the project is not even compiled. Okay, so what that problem is go to that particular select that particular thing, and in go to the problems tab. If you don't have problems tab, go to show window, show view, and you can select problems, or if you don't have problems in this list, go to other, and you will be able to find problems. If you cannot, just type problems, you will be seeing, and general problem, select it and say okay, and that particular tab will be coming. And that tab, if you see, it is telling some issues. So what exactly do you guess by reading those errors, Srinivas or Kishore?
We have not given, we have not built the path. I mean, we brought two jar files.
We have added two jar files to as dependencies, and
Okay, when it is searching, it is not getting in the directory. So we have to
yes,
give
it is
the.
unable to find those jar files, that's it. Okay, the reason being I have deleted all the files that are there on my desktop, and those jars are gone. So now there are two ways this can be fixed. Either we can remove these jars from build path if we don't need them, or we will have to put those jar files again back. So how we can do that? Go to right click on project, go to build path, configure build path, and if you go to library section, it shows errors over here, right? So as I said, we don't need them now, common slang or anything, so I'm simply removing those things. So by removing those jars, I can simply remove those errors. And then now I got that exclamation got removed, which means now the classes are compiled and now the exact errors are being displayed. So what are those exact errors? So now if I double click, first if I save the file, file will be compiled again, and it got compiled again. Now if you see, there are no errors at all. Okay, if there are any errors, you have to see, come to problem section and you have to fix the errors. Okay. So that's how you can actually get some help on how to fix the errors and all by you reading that message itself. Okay, sometimes you don't know how to do that. What to do is just copy that error message and search Google for that error message. You will be able to figure out what is going wrong with your project. So that's a very simple thing which you can actually try doing that on day-to-day basis. Whenever you are stuck with some error or something, all you have to do is come to this problem section, copy that error, Google for it. You will be able to find the answer. Okay, let's see. Come to this. It says it is missing required library. How do you find out what it is? I'm just copying it, and then I'll come to Google and I'll paste it. I don't need all this message, right? So I'll be simply searching for this missing required library. And also this project name is specific to my project that I've created, so I don't need this. So project is missing required library, so I'll be removing everything else. So now it is showing me a specific message. Now if I click on this, I should be able to get to some questions that are actually useful. Okay. And okay. So now if you see, it is project XX is missing required library. Someone else has also got the same error. Now if you see, he will be explaining you some ways on how to fix it. Okay, Stack Overflow is actually a very beautiful site where you can search for all the questions people have asked, and if you can also ask a question, but make sure whatever question you have asked has not already been posted. Otherwise, that question will get negative votes. So, and many people will start shouting at you for posting the same question again. This particular Stack Overflow is very useful in terms of finding solutions for our day-to-day problems, especially for developers. Okay, and if you say,
But how can they control Buddha? I mean, new freshers will come.
yeah.
They will be posting, right?
Yes, what happens is when you answer, others will be upvoting your answer, okay, and you will be getting some privileges, okay, or points. If you see, it says Buddha has got, I got 2,600 points or so, and when you got points, you will get some extra privileges, like you can add questions to other folks, and you can actually remove some of the questions. You can also do some administrative tasks kind of thing. Okay, so it's actually
Okay.
not managed by any single person or single company. It's actually crowd control. So other people who has got reputation and gained points and recognition, they will be I actually be able to do that. Now, if you see, this question has got -1 vote. Okay, and this question has got -9 votes. Why did this question got -9 votes? And if you see this question, it says not really any reasonable development question in here. So only the development questions that we get in our day-to-day program, if you get some compilation error or if you are unable to get some logic and all, then you will be posting it over here. Okay? And if you see, this is a very d- uh, this is a very abstract question. Like it doesn't have yes or no answer or any specific answer. Every person will have a different thing. So this question is not good for this particular website. So they have given negative words for this. So this is how people will be controlled. If
Mm.
pressure posts a silly question, they will get negative words or they will be pointed to right. So if you see how to find best worst average case in Armstrong number algorithm, he has given some pseudocode and people have just negative voted it without actually commenting anything. So if you post some question, make sure that's a good question. And also this particular person has posted his exception, and he has given some code, and I don't know why, but if we read the question, that question may not be clear also, so that got negative votes. So this way, you will be getting some negative words if you don't have. Also, this particular thing, it says you already have a same answer for this question. So he's pointing to a different question that is answering the same thing, and he has applied. He has given a negative vote for it. So this is how it will be crowd control. Okay, so any questions that you get, most of the times when you get some issues, if you search in Google in programming, you the first couple of links will be most of the time Stack Overflow links. So now you see, this is a Stack Overflow, this is a Stack Overflow. So this is a very good programmer helping website. In fact, the website itself is not helping, but other people who know that particular things are helping. Okay. Anyways, as we sidetracked, let's come back. So now. we've added JUnit 4 to the library, and now how we can run this? We can run this by selecting this and selecting it as JUnit test. And there can be, and that part all the tests will be running over here, and if any one test fails, we will be showing this in red color so that we will be noticing errors quickly. So that is how we will be actually testing the our programs that we wrote. Okay, here we are not actually testing our program, we are simply testing the edition that is already there in Java. But say you have written some switch pairs program or some delete duplicates program or remove duplicates program that I've asked you. All I can do is I can write a unit test that will simply call your code and make sure that it is testing, rather than me writing testing that code manually and all. Okay, so that's about how we can actually run the test. Okay, here I showed you one class with one single test, but imagine large project, there can be thousands of test classes, and each class may contain more than one or more than one test case in the JUnit method form. Okay, so all this are JUnit tests. Now, as I told you, let's say whenever we have to do a build or build a jar file or some other file, what we have to do is we have to say, for example, we have to execute all the unit tests or unit tests that are starting with a specific name. Okay, we can have all these controls and all, and this way we'll be able to ensure the quality of our product. Okay, how we can do? We can use Maven to get that particular thing done. And then, as I said, Maven project will contain a specific file called as pom.xml, which we will be using to configure what all things to be done when we want to build. Okay, and also Maven uses convention. So most of the things that you achieve by following a specific convention that has been defined by the that is defined by Maven. So you can also achieve the same things separately, but you will have to customize Maven to achieve the same thing. So why to go for all that hoops? Just follow what Maven asks you to follow. And according to the conventions, you have to place all your source code in a file in a folder called as src/main/java in your project, and all the resources, like that means the other extra files and all that you need in base dir src main resources, and all the test cases that you have to put in src/test slash java, and also the resources the test resources in src/test slash resources, and all the classes that are compiled or the jar files that are generated, etc., will be placed in a folder called as target, and all the class will go into target/classes. So this is just very basic conventions that are defined by the Maven. Okay, so if you create your files in this particular structure and create a file called as pom.xml, you will be able to achieve the build process thing. Okay, so now let me just show you how we can create a Maven project first, and then we'll go into the details of these things. Now, so far you are selecting Java project directly, right? Don't select Java project. Go to project and type Maven. Tell me if you are do it once in your machines, and tell me if you are seeing these, at least these three options.
Yes, I can see those three options.
Oh, Kishore.
Yeah, one. I'll check. I'm opening Eclipse, Buddha. 1 minute.
Buddha, one question. Meanwhile, when you open the new file, new project,
Mm-hmm.
you got Java project and a couple of other options, right?
Yeah, yeah.
web service and all. But I'm getting only two options: Java project and project. Is
See,
this
it depends on the perspective that you are in, and also the plugins that you have installed in Eclipse.
okay?
Okay, so uh, depends on the need. We will be able to control all those things.
Okay, okay, got it. Actually, I changed the perspective to Java Enterprise Edition. Now I
Okay.
can see some of the options.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here.
Yeah, I can see with the checkout Maven project, Maven module, Maven project.
Okay. Okay. So now we can select Maven project and say next, and then we will be having we can select this create simple project, which will be skipping arch type. I'll tell you what arch type is, and the location as it is, leave that as is. And here, and every Maven project will have three things, that is group ID, artifact ID. Like group ID is the a group ID and artifact ID version is actually okay. I'll come back to this again. Let me just finish it. And packaging, I'm mentioning it as jar, and then I'm finishing it. Now what happened is I have actually created a project, and all these projects are actually all these folders are created. Okay, now if you see, there is also another file called as pom.xml that got created, which will be having all the configuration information that is required for my project. Okay, so far we don't have any customized configuration, so we only have this. Now imagine we have created a class. So all the classes have to be created. Main classes like the project application related class have to be created in src/main/java, and that we can create packages and do. Okay, and the pom.xml, whatever you see over here, will have stored all the configuration information. I'll show you a bit later. So now what we can do is we can right click on it, and we will find run as, and if we say maven build, we can use some things like goals. Okay, goals are something like what we want to do when we run that particular program. Okay, now so imagine you have some command line arguments for some programs, right? And these goals are also like that, command line arguments. So say I want to install this project. So now what happens is when I run this, some files will be compiled, and also a new target folder will be created. And now if you see, there is a file called as maven demo 002 hyphen snapshot.jar. So I've actually created this jar file. Okay, and also it does lot of other things which I haven't been showing you. It simply compiled it. Imagine that I have a unit test. Now, what it says is we have to add the JUnit 4 library to the build path. We can do it this way, or we can like how we did for our Java project, or we can actually do another thing by okay. Now, what we can do is we can either right click on this project and add that JUnit 4 jars as to the build path. Alternatively, Maven actually provides us way to mention all these dependencies very simply. Dependencies dependency, and every project will have something called as a group id and artifact id. Okay, so group id and artifact id are nothing but the like our home address. Okay, so group address is the name of the city, and artifact id is the name of the state. name of this street or apartment number in that city. So imagine it that way. So group ID is like a common thing for all the projects that you are doing or your company is working. And then artifact ID is a different project name, like independent is a different project that you may be having. So now to mention JUnit, what we have to do is we have to give argue JUnit as arg.JUnit as a group ID and JUnit. Now when I save it, it says version is missing. So we have another thing also called as version, and let's say 4.12 as one version that is there for JUnit. And now dependency missing artifact. So now what? If you say we have to provide a specific group ID and artifact ID to actually use a specific project. Now let's say the build again run as, and we can directly do that Maven install instead of calling build and typing install there. Maven install is another shortcut that we can use. Now if you see, the build has failed. Why did the build fail? It says assertion error. Okay, so I've created a test case, but in that test case code, I have not written anything, and nothing is implemented, right? So that's why I'm getting this error. Let's say I'm not actually failing this, and run as Maven install. Now what happens? All the change files will be compiled, and all the test cases will be executed. If there are no failures, the build will succeed, and a new jar file will be created. If this jar file is not there, see, all the test cases are executed, and all the and the jar file is also generated. Imagine this jar file is not there, and the test case has failed. Now if I run this project, now jar file is not there, right? So now let me, okay, now if you see, no jar file is not created. Okay, so this way we can actually control. We will only be generating the artifacts, required artifacts when the build, the entire build passes. Like every test case has passed, every class has got compiled successfully, and Maven has simply automated this particular thing. Okay, and here I said we can keep dependencies for different things, right? And a few days back, yesterday actually, we have used um, something called as the common slang library. Okay, now how do we find out what is the Maven group ID and artifact ID for that? The simplest way, if we are using some project, go to that project. Say lang is what we were using yesterday, and we have yesterday what we did downloaded, but here it is also giving us what exactly we have to use if we want to use the particular project in using the Maven group ID artifact ID version. So these are called as Maven coordinates. Okay, so now there is other way also. We can simply say, for example, if we say JUnit Maven coordinates. If we say this, we will be taken to a website called as mavenrepository.com. There we will be able to choose a specific version, and it gives us the dependency that we have to give, how we have to mention the dependency in Maven. If you see, there is also Gradle dependencies. Also there are many other build tools that we can use, but anyways we are only seeing Maven here. So just copy the Maven coordinates and put it over here. Now let's say, how do we do for Apache common langs? Just search, and if you see, it is taking us to Apache common lang, and for 3.4 version we'll be we'll have to put this over there in the form.xml in the dependencies tag. Now what happened is, if I open my any class, okay, let me open test class only. If you see, random string utils has come. Earlier we were only getting the random string utils if we have added the jar. So Maven is also managing the dependencies. All we have to do is open this XML file and make sure that we mention what all dependencies that we need for the project. Okay, this actually helps us a lot. Imagine you and Kishore and Srinivas, you both have to share a project. Now, while sharing the project, you are adding the JUnit and other libraries to your project. Imagine if you are adding that libraries, how you will be doing it. You will have to go to build path, configure build path, add external jars, and programs. So this is one certain jar, and say you've added it. It's all well and good. But the problem with this approach is, if you see the jar file exists in slash user slash buddha slash project, and imagine you have to share the same project between both of you. What you have to do, you have to make sure this path, whatever path is there in your machines also, right? If you have added jar files from different location, the other person also have to add the same folders and make sure that he places the correct jars in all those folders. So what happens is, it becomes cumbersome to manage all these dependencies, especially if multiple people are working. Okay, but if we are actually using Maven, there is no such concept of reference libraries at all. There are Maven dependencies that will be simply mentioned in this pom.xml, and this particular, whenever we mention these things, they will be copied into our local Maven repository, where all the local jars will be saved, and there from there it will be reading. So you don't have to worry about where the other person is storing the jars and create all those things. Have you understood this concept of how Maven is simplifying some dependencies?
Buddha, you said Maven. uh, Without giving the path, how Maven will come to know?
Yeah. What Maven does is, Maven simply, whatever dependencies are there, they will be downloaded from the internet. Actually, you don't have to have these jar files in your computer.
No, in this, like in the example, I created one project.
Yeah.
Okay, and that needs to be shared by Srinivas and you.
No, if you have created your own project, what you will do is that project will be converted into jar and will be stored in a Maven repository for your company.
Okay,
It's not just for sharing the code. For sharing code, we use GitHub. Okay,
okay,
but imagine you have to share the dependencies. Okay, some jar files that are there from the external websites, some helper classes and all. Okay, I'm speaking about
okay,
those jars. So those jars, what we do,
okay.
when we give these jars, we will be those particular jar files will be automatically download by the help of our Maven. Now if I run this project, if I build this project, if you see, what is happening over here is, the Eclipse is automatically downloading whatever dependencies that we have actually mentioned in our project. Okay, and if you Maven, when we are doing the build process, what happens is, whatever dependence jars that we have placed over here, they will be downloaded automatically from the internet. We don't have to download. Okay, we can select, say for example, some, go to IO. Okay, don't worry about what this does. Just copy this and paste it over here. Now, if you see, it is building workspace and doing some tasks, right? Now, in that process, what actually it does is it will be downloading all the required class files. Now, if I say run as Maven install, build has succeeded, and okay. Now, if you see, the artifact commons io.jar has been relocated to commons io commons jar. We got some message, right? So this one commons io.jar. Okay, what this does is it will be downloading all these jar files and storing in a folder called as local Maven repository. That will generally be with the name. How do I show hidden files? Okay, I'm able to show the hidden files there. So cd dir ls. Okay. Now there will be a folder called .m2 which will be created when we are running the Maven for the first time. And if we go to that m2 folder, and it will have a folder called repository. And now if you see, it will have all these folders. Okay. If you see commons IO, now if I go into commons IO or even commons lang, and now if I go to commons lang, now if you see there are different versions. Now let me say I go into 2.6 ls. Now what it has is it has actually downloaded those source files and Java doc files and all the jar files that are required for my Maven dependencies to work. So let's say cd cd cd. Now, how many we have? We have Antler, ASM, LogJ, etc., etc. Right? Now we have around some or even number of items. Let me find out some new thing. Say, for example, something I don't really care what that is. I kept this in my Maven project as a dependency.
Okay, so first time when we are doing this one, we need internet connection, right,
Yes,
Buddha?
yes, 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 yes. You have to have the internet connection so that it will be downloading from the internet. Or
Okay, and
if
after,
yeah, please go ahead.
yeah, once I do that one, next time without internet, it will be executed.
Yes,
because already it is copied into our folders.
yes, yes. And now if you say ls, it did not download anything. One reason maybe I have not used these things anywhere. So I am also supposed to use these things in order for the Maven also does that. Okay, only downloads what we need in our project. Maven install. Yeah, unless I have used these any of these things, it will not be downloading. It seems. So let me see if there is anything else that I can make use of. There is this collections, common collections. Do I have common collections? I have common collections already. There is this Google collections. Okay, in fact, I should have actually gone into org folder earlier. cd org. Now, if I say, now if you see, there is aspect J. So and then aspect JRT. So now if you see, we have that 1.8.7 version, that whatever that we have earlier copied. Okay, this is not what we copied. We have copied something like aspect JRT or something. Now if you see 1.8.7, now we just copied the Google collections, right? Now let's see that
Yes.
one. Collections, Google collections, and 1.0. Now it will be located in com/google/collections folder, and cd com ls cd google ls cd collections, and then Google collections. Now we have 1.0 which we have actually copied, and now if we go there, we will get that particular jar file, whatever is required. Okay. So Maven, what it does is it manages all the dependencies. It will be downloading all the jar files that you need and making sure that you have all the required artifacts in your projects. Okay, so that is one of the beautiful things about Maven. Okay, you don't have to mention the local files, jar files as a dependencies. If you have two projects that you want to keep both of them as dependencies for each other, like Srinivas and Kishore, you both your project, what you have to do, you have to have a Maven repository for your own, and then you have to make sure that you upload your project, Maven project, to that particular repository. And therein, if you mention that particular Maven coordinates of each other's project, your project will also be coming up as a dependency. Okay, so that is how you will be able to manage dependencies between different projects. Okay, so you don't have to export it as jar file and then make sure that you upload it somewhere. All that things are not necessary. Even in my Eclipse, I have another project called sample maven, right? I can simply copy that particular form.xml's version id and all. If you see, I have this version id, group id and all, right? Control C. Now if I go to this form.xml,
So Buddha, even if we don't use, we can, I mean, it will get copied, right?
yes, even if you don't use, it will be copied. Okay, as long as we mention that in dependencies. Now, if you see, I have mentioned my other project, sample Maven, as a Maven dependency. Okay. Now, what I'll be going to get is, say there is a class called weekdays.java. So I can directly call that weekdays.java here. Now, weekdays.java. Okay, so this way I'll be able to add dependencies from different projects also. So this is how you will be able to manage dependencies in your form.xml. So if you are using Gradle, that will also be very similar, except that you use a slightly different syntax. You won't be using XMLs. You will be using something called as Groovy, that will actually help you to mention all the dependencies or do all those other tasks that you are supposed to do and all. Okay, so that is how Maven actually simplifies our life in terms of managing dependencies and producing artifacts and all. Okay, as I said, Pounded XML is the actually the place where we keep all our configurations and everything. Okay, so far I just showed you one configuration on how to put the Maven dependencies. Okay. And we can do a lot of other things. We can mention goals, we can customize them, everything we can do. Okay, and now let's say I have been telling the coordinates so far, right? So group ID is the bigger region, like telling a country. Artifact ID is like telling the telling, say, for example, a particular city or zip code. And version is like telling the exact apartment number or the name of the apartment, like Parkview Restaurant or 4B Parkview Villas. So this way, we will be able to, every company will have a group ID. Most of the times, if your company, if you're using Maven, they will have one group ID, and then at one artifact ID, which will be separate for all projects that they do. Each project will have a new artifact ID, and then version for the same project, they'll be working in terms of versions. 1.0, 1.1. And there are also two different kinds of versions, that is snapshot and final. Snapshots are like, so for example, non-release candidates. You don't release the snapshot versions to the customers. Final are the ones that are tested properly and are ready to be released to the customers. Okay, so you may be able to recognize by looking at the name snapshot and final. Okay, if you remember, yeah, our project has 0.0.2 hyphen snapshot. Okay, which means this is not a completely tested or completely developed project, or not, this version is not finished yet. So that is when we use snapshot name. So this is just a name that we can give. If we simply ignore this, this is like a final version that can be delivered to the customers. Okay, not a snapshot version. Okay, so that's how we can use these coordinates to actually indicate the actual address for our project. And then when it comes to build lifecycle, I've showed you Maven install, right? Maven install is doing certain things. What it does, it is installing all the required dependencies in our local Maven repository, and it is doing all the other necessary things like compiling, packaging, and all the other preparations and all it is doing. So generally, we can execute these same commands using command line also. One of the main advantage of using Maven is that we don't have to depend on Eclipse. We can do all these things in a command line also, and you don't have to remember very large commands. Where is this project located? Let's see. It is located in workspace, Eclipse training prep. Now we are in our Maven demo project that is there in the Eclipse. Now we have form.xml. Now all we have to do is we have to type this command Maven mvn, and if we say install, whatever that has been done, like running the executing the unit tests and compiling the classes and creating jar file, everything will be done. So this is the main advantage of using the Maven. You don't have to have this IDE dependency also. If you want to run thousands of tests, all you have to do is just type this Maven install command or Maven test command. Okay, this will also be running all the tests that are necessary for ensuring that particular thing is successfully passing. Okay, and also we have other commands like Maven clean. You can actually combine multiple things like Maven clean install. This way, what it does, it first performs clean operation, like it removes all the existing class files and then it recompiles them and then installs these Maven jars in our Maven local repository. So this way, these are called as goals. Okay, the clean, the install, test, all these are goals. And Maven is the command to which we will provide these goals to actually execute these things. Okay, so most of the times we use this Maven install, Maven clean install commands. If you want to know how to achieve specific thing in Maven, you can search for Google. Search in Google, you will be able to find that out. Okay, so as an exercise, I want you to find out the Maven coordinates for Guava libraries and make sure you create a Maven project, and there you write the strings dot repeat method in using a Maven project. Okay, without mentioning adding a jar file as a dependency. Okay, so any questions on whatever that we covered so far? Okay. Uh, so now I showed you that we can actually use JUnit, right? But I haven't showed you the real testing of it. Okay. Say imagine really we won't be using if else's to test whether a certain condition is passing or failing. Instead we use something called as asserts. Assert. And in JUnit also there are two things: assert in JUnit.framework package, assert in org.JUnit package. So the JUnit.framework package is like old. If you see the on the class there is a small strike symbol, okay, which means this class is deprecated. This is old. Don't use it. That's what it means. If I double click it and if I use something, now, if you see, all these classes are being shown as a crossed. Okay, these words are struck through, which means these are all deprecated. Okay, these are not recommended to use. There are latest and greatest better functions to use. If we put our mouse over there, it shows it doesn't have any Java doc element. So Maven download sources. Now what it is doing is it is downloading all the source files and all the Javadoc files that are necessary. Now if we put our mouse over here, now we will see what actually this particular thing does. Okay, so Maven also does those things. And now if you see, this is
Then what about the old code, Buddha? I mean the code which used these classes.
no, these code will not be removed. They will stay. That will still be there. Okay, but it says it is not recommended. That's what it is.
Okay.
Okay.
No, no, no. If I open a old code class which has used assert,
Okay.
will it show strike again?
Yes, it will show.
Okay.
Okay, it will show strike, but the those classes will not be removed, so they will still work. But they are not recommended to use anymore. Okay,
Okay.
so now when we use this old ones, it will be showing all these errors. So let's not use that. Let's use the latest one. So now it says import arg.jinit. Now importing that, now it doesn't show any error. Okay, it will be compiled without any warnings or errors. Now if I run this JUnit test, we will be able to simply, what this does is it tests if these two are equal or not. And assert actually has a lot of methods. Say it can directly test whether two arrays are same or not, whether two strings are same or not. It can also print a specific message, and all those things it will be able to do. Okay, so you can try using any of this and you will know what happens. Okay, now if we pass some if we call some method and see if that method is returning true or not, we can simply give true in this expected and then actually give call that method directly here, that will be testing the both the values that we got. Okay, now if we run this particular JUnit test, this will be passing. If we run this JUnit test, this will be failing because true and false are not equal. So even our Maven build process will also be failing. Now if we run this, now build has failed. Why did it fail? It failed because of a test failure. It says expected true but was false. So now if you see the JUnit, what exactly is the message we got also is getting printed over. Okay, so that's how Maven actually simplifies our life. JUnit actually automates the testing process of our project. Okay, if you had actually done some done the exercises, I would have actually shown you more JUnit test cases to test them, but at this point of time I don't want to complicate things even more. But at this point of time, this would be sufficient for you to know. Okay, we'll be creating objects of our classes and calling some methods and see if it is returning proper values or not. So all those things can be tested when we are using the JUnit, and make sure that they are working even after some code changes by simply running the tests. Okay, so that's what about Maven and JUnit. Okay, so about Git and all, I'll tell you later point of time, so we don't have to worry too much about the Git. So it's also a very small concept, but a very beautiful concept that will be more useful once you keep doing some more exercises. Okay, so that's it for today. If you have any questions, ask me. Otherwise, we can drop off.
So, Buddha, I mean, the purpose of assert here is to compare two arrays, or uh, you said one more thing I forgot.
No, it has all these methods. Now, if you see assert array equals, it is testing two arrays if they are equal or not. If you come down, it is testing float arrays. It has lot of methods. It is testing if two double numbers are equal or not. It is testing if two long numbers are equal or not. So it has a lot of things. Okay, you don't have to only restrict yourself that once simple array or anything. Okay, it has a lot of things. It can test lot of things.
Okay, but how this is related to JUnit?
This is coming from JUnit. If you see this assert
Uh-huh.
is coming from a package called org.junit.
Okay, okay, got you.
Okay, so this entire assert is part of JUnit.
So if I don't use JUnit, I cannot use assert at all.
That's true. Any other questions? Okay. So these asserts and all we only use in unit tests. We don't use them in our regular coding because the assert will throw an exception if it is not matching, so the test case will fail. Generally, our programs should not throw exceptions outside. They should have be handled inside within them, unless they are some out of memory or some other very critical errors. Okay. So asserts is only used when we are actually using games. Java also has some keyword called asserts, but at this point of time they are kind of redundant. Okay, we don't use those things much, but I can go through them at later point of time whenever we have some time. Okay, any other questions? Either Srinivas or Kishore?
No, but as of now, no.
Okay, that's it. We'll meet on today is Wednesday, right? So Thursday I will not have session in the morning times. Okay, in the evening times, now as money is not there, both of you are on the same time zone, right?
No, no. Srinivas is in different. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean like relatively closer than money. So you guys are around 1 hour apart. Uh, so probably we can think about taking a session on Thursday evening of my time, so that it will be Thursday morning your time, depending upon your feasibility and all. Okay, earlier when money was there, time zones were too different, like way far, way far. So we could not find any specific time. But now I think we may be able to find time. So ping in the group if you have any specific time range that suits you. Just let me know. We will have it in that time during Thursday evenings. Okay, so that's it for today. We'll catch up maybe tomorrow or on the Friday or Thursday night at your time. Okay, okay.
Mm.
Thanks, guys. We'll upload these things in momentarily, and also like I think uploaded the all these PDF files already, like all this that contained extras. So I don't think I have to upload the PDF file again. Let me just check. Share presentations. Yes, this does contain Maven as well. Okay, so just refer to the previous PDF itself. I'll be uploading the video.